welcome back to another book review. This time it is book number 12 of the Wheel of Time, The Gathering Storm. Now I did mention this briefly in one of my recent videos that I had finished it and pretty much loved it. This book was awesome. I had already talked about, Sanderson really knows pacing very well. This is probably one of the better paced Wheel of Time books that there's been. It's definitely up there as one of my favorites, if not my current favorite. I'd still have to sit down and really think through The Shadow Rising and Lord of Chaos. The Gathering Storm is damn good. It's definitely Egwene and Rand's best book so far in the series. Again, Lord of Chaos is very close for Rand especially. But this really started, picking up the pace of getting to the finale. And if you haven't watched these reviews yet, you're this far into the series, these are full of spoilers. So turn away if you have not read this book, or if you don't care about spoilers, enjoy. So right off the bat in the prologue, Sanderson's killing people. So this book does not waste any time getting to the plot and the story. We're finally past, Perrin chasing Fael forever and ever and ever. You have a interesting opening prologue that's noticeably shorter than Knife of Dreams, where it was 100 pages of a bunch of characters that I don't personally care for all that much, which is why that book started relatively slow for me, but then picked up in the second half especially. But this one, you've got everybody pretty much gearing up for the last battle, building off of that build-up that was Knife of Dreams, where everybody's sort of making their way to the final battle. You've got the Forsaken planning an attack on the White Tower. Of course, you have Egwene in the White Tower. You've got Rebel Aes Sedai planning on taking the White Tower. You've got Shan Chan, wanting to take the White Tower. So Tar Valon is going to be a major plot point in the last couple of books. And of course, you have Fael, which is why I mentioned her, because she kills Masema and straight up knifes Masema. It was savage. Aiel archers come out of the woods, kill everybody. Masema gets knifed. It was just no hesitation in this book. It just got going, which I will immediately go into. The two characters that noticeably were not in this book, I think at all, I don't even think they were mentioned a single time, were Lan, who is off doing his thing. Maybe Nynaeve talks about him at some point, but he's definitely not in the book. So I assume we'll get some of him in Towers of Midnight. And Elaine. Elaine is having her kids. That was a big plot point of Knife of Dreams, was her getting her, people to join her cause and her dealing with her pregnancy. So we'll see I'm wondering if Towers of Midnight, we're going to get the birth or what she's really going to play in these last two books, because I feel like she was in a lot of them. And now that she's about to have her, I believe it's twins, she wasn't even in this book at all. So we'll see what happens with her plot line now that she sort of gathered all the people around her that she needs. But so they're not in it. I'm going to start off with somebody who's barely in this book, and that's Perrin. Now, again, damn you, Wheel of Time, just making Perrin disappear. As soon as we finally finish the whole Fael quest, chasing after her. The good thing is, though, he knows that he must go north to, sync up with Rand and go forward, because he understands he's the Dragon Reborn. He can't shy away from that. Rand needs him. That's where he's going to go. And that's kind of all we see from Perrin. I'm pretty sure, very early on in this book is the last that we hear from him. So he wasn't in it very much. We'll see what he does in Towers of Midnight. Okay, so there's a couple things with Mat. I liked part of his storyline, which I'll get to in a second, but I'm going to hit the negative first. I feel like, and Sanderson's humor has always been hit or miss for me. Mostly a miss. I feel like he tried too hard to make Mat funny in scenes where it wasn't funny. And him harping over and over and over and over about women was just dude, we get it. That was already kind of part of his character, that he doesn't trust women and he kind of doesn't seem to like them. And it was just at least in this one particular scene when he's talking to Tom, it was just bro, stop. It even bothered me, and I don't normally get bothered by crap like that. It was just oh my God, can you stop, please? So he made Mat kind of annoying. Having said that, good thing about Mat, which was kind of cool, I'm not sure exactly what role this plays in the overall plot. I feel like he was just kind of on his own side quest. but the whole like village that people like die and come back the next day, like people will go off and die and wake up in bed. I was just like, what the hell is this? What is happening? And so like just that entire setup premise, like weird things are happening to Matt. What Knife of Dreams, when he saw the town like fall into what looked like quicksand and then it wasn't actually there anymore. There's weird shit happening to Matt. So we had that whole plot line with like the mayor of the town and how they needed to get out because they didn't want to get stuck there, because it seems like it's an endless loop of like almost Groundhog Day but more murderous. And they just, I guess, like people die and they wake up the next day and it happens again. So there was that. Matt also learned that there were people looking for him and Perrin. They have pictures of them, so I'm assuming that he's going to try to seek out Perrin at some point and figure out what's going on there. But we still have the outstanding quest that him and Tom need to go on to find Moraine, because he is apparently the one that knows how to find her based on her letter. So I'm assuming Towers of Midnight is going to have him finding Moraine and reuniting with the crew, or maybe they'll reunite in Memory of Light. But I anticipate seeing that reunion happen and then them sort of syncing up with Rand and everybody else. So then the last few characters that I really want to talk about sort of this book heavily focuses on Rand and Egwene, so I'm mostly going to talk about them. Nynaeve plays into Rand's quest, I was going to say, his plotline the most, because Nynaeve and Cadsuane are trying to interrogate Semirhage and get information out of her, and Rand, being tortured himself, will not allow them to torture her because he's like, she's not going to talk anyway, there's no point in torturing her, and I've been tortured, I got put in a box, like I don't want to do that even to a dark friend. So they're frustrated with Rand because they can't get any information, and so they're trying all sorts of things. But you got the couple of craziest story points in this definitely follow Egwene and Rand, because Rand, of course, is dealing with the loss of his hand from the last book. He's dealing with, he cleansed Sidene, but no one believes him, so he's frustrated at everybody for not believing that he did it, and no one's really buying into it. There's a couple moments here and there where people were like, well, he says it must be so, and it seems like it is, so it's probably true. But for the most part, a lot of people just don't buy into it. So he's frustrated as hell. He's having to deal with all these Aes Sedai and everything that's going on, assassination attempts on his life throughout this entire series. And the fact that he cleansed Sidene and he's still going insane. Lews Therin is more present than ever, and he is just, he's kind of losing it a little bit, even more than he already did. We'll get into some of those key points in a moment. Of course, you have, while this is happening, Egwene is still in Tar Valon, still getting, daily beatings. I thought for a second, I think Sanderson still talks about spanking, but I figured since he took over, he just started calling them beatings instead of spankings, because Knife of Dreams, there's a lot of spankings in that book. But Egwene is still receiving daily beatings. But Egwene's whole plot point, since being taken at the end of Crossroads of Twilight. Crossroads of Twilight, this is the only thing that happened in that book, was, being Elyda's prisoner in Tar Valon. And Egwene is really struggling with the fact that Elyda is running Tar Valon and the White Tower and the Aes Sedai, because she was kind of put in the Amerlin seat as like a joke almost, or like to be a puppet, and she knows that. But she also takes it very seriously, and it's killing her inside that, she dedicated her life to the Aes Sedai, and Elyda is just ruining it and stomping on their traditions and their rules and stilling people and gentling people and doing all this, banishing or like abolishing the Green Aja, the Red Aja, which one was it? She just like abolishes the whole, I think it's the Red Aja. She just like abolishes it. It's gone. And no one's doing anything about it. And it's driving Egwene crazy. So she's, you have Swan and the Rebel Aes Sedai trying to figure out like who is going to be the new Amerlin in Egwene's absence, because she's gone. And Egwene is trying to, infiltrate the Aes Sedai in the White Tower and get them to turn against Elyda. And that happens a lot in this book. And you get tons of great moments of her just slowly building up, a case against Elyda and trying to get people to turn on her. And it's to the point where Elyda, invites her to dinner to basically humiliate her. She has to like serve wine and stuff to people. And finally, Egwene just like loses it and like drops shit on the floor and makes Elyda go crazy. At one point, she confronts Elyda about it while they're in the tower and calls her a dark friend. And she's like, I'm not a dark friend, you're a dark friend. And just goes bananas. Just loses it on her and just beats the shit out of her. And there's also this great moment for Egwene, amidst all the beatings, where she, like, it hurts her, yeah, but she's so far beyond like feeling the pain anymore of the beatings. She's literally just like so distraught at what's happened to the White Tower, and that's worse than any physical beating that she could take. And she just starts laughing because she's just like, this is so absurd that this is what we're dealing with right now. And she's so mad at Elaida because she's like, how could you possibly have done this? Like, everything that the Aes Sedai stand for, and you're doing this, and like people are just allowing this to happen, is just the most disgusting thing in the world to her. So she's gonna do something about it. And you get tons of great moments of just Egwene showing, one, how strong she is and how resilient she is, but also just like how fearless she is too, because she refuses to escape. Like, she could have gone with Swan at one point. She, the cook like goes to smuggle her out, and she's like, no, I can't leave. Like, thank you, but that's not going to help. Like, that won't fix Elaida being in charge. I'm not just going to flee the tower. And meanwhile, of course, you have Gawain planning with Swan to like come and save her. Like, gotta save Egwene from the White Tower. And everyone's like, no, she doesn't want us to. He's like, yeah, but like the Shan are gonna attack, so we're just gonna sneak in there and get her out. What's really sweet about the sort of the conclusion of Egwene's story, though, is that during the Shan attack, as Tuon decides to, attack Tar Valon and names herself Empress and everything that happens with her, they attack the White Tower. Elaida goes missing. She's presumed dead. And the tower actually, seats Egwene. They say, like, you should lead us. And she does something that no one else has done. And she basically names she reinstates the Red Aja. And then I forget her name, but she basically has, like, the leader of the Reds be, like, her hand of the king type position. So that's really cool, and that's going to piss some people off. But she basically was able to salvage what was the White Tower and sort of gain the trust of these women around her, but also call them all out for, enabling Elaida and just standing by and not doing anything while she was just running rampant on this, on the Aes Sedai. And she also basically declares war on the Black Aja. She was like, she starts calling people out. They find several of them there. And then she's like, look, there's pockets of Black Aja all over the place. Like, we have to find them, root them out, and get rid of them, but we have to be smart about it. So she basically sets forth this plan to find them all and get rid of them. And also the rebel camp also decides that she's the Amyrlin seat. So there you go. She got her position back. She's now like the thrice Amyrlin chair seat hat. Is it chair or seat? I always say both of them. But I mean, she dresses everybody down in the White Tower. It's just like, what were all you doing when Elaida was doing this? Like, don't come to me with your alligator tier bullshit. Like, you guys could have stood up and stopped this, and you didn't. And I'm gonna remember that. But like, it's still trying to rebuild the Aes Sedai. She was like, we can't do this like petty squabbling right now when the last battle is coming. Rand is an issue, and that's like the only thing the Aes Sedai are focused on. She was like, how can we possibly focus on Rand and possibly destroying the world when like we can't even like talk to each other? And so she takes over. She's a badass. She's like taking over the Aes Sedai, grabbing them by their hair and like knocking their heads together. Like, get it together, guys. We're gonna rebuild this thing. So props to Egwene. She's a badass. And in a book that does not contain a lot of Nynaeve badassery, I'm happy that Egwene filled that position. Speaking of that whole Nynaeve plotline, though, with Semirhage and Cadswan, so we have this whole thing with Semirhage and Rand. So Semirhage is, held captive, and Cadswain, is supposed to be watching her and fails to do so. And Shaidar Haran, I'm going to mess up so many of these names, frees her and gives her the domination band and was like, go get him, cowboy. And so, which leads to this scene where Rand is talking to Semirhage. He's got Min there, and Semirhage, snags that domination band on Rand's neck, and then just starts controlling Rand. And it's just this crazy scene because Rand is already losing it. Like, he's not sane anymore. Lews Therin is partially dominating his mind. Like we saw in Knife of Dreams, he was channeling for him. He almost, channeled enough power. I was about to say source because I've been playing Divinity. Channeled enough of the power to kill Rand. and she has him like choke Min to near death. Like he almost kills Min in this book because of the domination band, and he's so furious that he can't access the power, so he accesses the true power, the Dark One's power, and snaps the band off and just balefires Elsa and Semiraj and just obliterates them from the wheel. Like he is not here for any of this shit anymore. He's just gonna kill people outright and just erase them completely. And then Min's like, oh, Rand, what did you do? Like, holy crap! Like, what was that? There were so many. God, Rand is a psycho. He has so many badass moments. Because then he, of course, was like, Cadsuane, like you were supposed to be protecting this band and you failed. So if I ever see you again, I am going to murder your face. She's like, Rand, we all know you don't hurt women. And he was just like, well, I do now. Except in the badass way that he says it, which is, I have been forced to revise that particular inclination as of tonight. We also get even more crazy Rand when he's fighting with Nynaeve, and Nynaeve is like, what about Mat and Perrin? Like, you're friends, you grew up in the Two Rivers with them. And he's just so caught up in like what he is now as the Dragon Reborn and his goal to reach the last battle and kill the Dark One and die with Lews Therin, that he's just like, what do I care about these two dorks from the Two Rivers? Like, they mean nothing to me. I'm the Dragon Reborn. That's my focus. And Nynaeve is just like, who are you? Again, as Rand says, besides those cares, a pair of boys from my little village are meaningless. God, what a dick. Speaking of Rand being crazy in this book and why it's so awesome, he balefires a fucking fortress and kills a bunch of people because Graendal's in it, and he's like, you know what? I don't want to let him escape, so I'm just gonna like gravity bomb the entire fortress and just levels an entire fortress, innocent people, bodies everywhere. He's like, yeah, but I got Graendal. Like, and then again, I've probably said some of those out of order. He almost kills his dad with balefire. He can't control himself. He's like, he had to calm himself down to not burn his father because Cadsuane sent Tam to talk to Rand to calm him down, and he was like, I'm so done with being controlled. And it was just like, So Rand is like, all right, I gotta cool off. I'm going to Dragonmount. I gotta go take a vacation. I'm gonna go sit up top on this mountain that Lews Therin created after he killed his wife and kids. And then we have Rand on top of Dragonmount just like yelling at the sky, like, what's the point? The wheel keeps turning. A dragon's reborn. He kills the Dark One, but he burns everything down just for it to come back again. Like, why do we even do this if it just keeps coming back? And this is what reminded me of Final Fantasy X with, Sin comes back in a never-ending cycle, and you have to have like the final Aeon kill him, and then he comes back later, and it's just like that whole like wheel turning premise that Final Fantasy X did as well. It's just, he's like, what's the point? And even to the point where he's like, he's talking to Lews Therin, and he's thinking about, he's like, the only mistake that Lews made was not literally burning everything forever, like just obliterating time and space. Like, everyone just should have died and we'd be done with this suffering. And then Lews is like, bro, even you're too crazy for me. He was like, I finally understand it. I came back to fix my failure from last time. And then Rand just like starts laughing. And that's like the end of the book. It's just fucking great. So that is my summary review synopsis of The Gathering Storm. Very, very excellent book. Well-paced. Great action, great political stuff with, the Aes Sedai and Rand dealing with Semiraj and everybody around him. Just, wow. There's all the pieces are coming together. We still have a couple of things, all the armies have to get to wherever the last battle is going to be. I don't even know really what the last battle is going to look like as far as like army versus army at this point, because it seems like there's the Dark One, there's the Forsaken, there's Black Aja. I don't think the Shan-Shan are going to join them because Tuon, like, that wouldn't make sense. So you've got like Rand and Mat and everybody with like actual armies. So it'll be interesting to see what these Trollocs, of course, and like Murdral and stuff that we don't see that much anymore in the books are probably going to make a strong comeback, like Uruk-hai style, just marching through the fields. I'm excited to get to the last battle, but we still got to find Moraine. We got to get Mat back with the group. We probably have Tuon coming back. with Shan-Chan now that she's Empress. Egwene is going to be dealing with Aes Sedai, I'm guessing, through a lot of Towers of Midnight. Rand is probably going to kill a bunch of people because he's a psychopath. Maybe he's not anymore. Maybe he's a good guy now. He's probably still going to kill some people. I don't know. Are we going to see Loyal again? Loyal's missing now because he got married and is like off in a forest somewhere. So I want to see Loyal again. I think we're going to get a lot of like reunions stuff, you know, reunion style things happening. We had finally Tam and Rand reuniting and finally, you know, hashing it out about Tam not actually being his father and then Rand almost killing him because he's a crazy person. Lots and lots of good stuff happening in these last few books, meaning Knife of Dreams and The Gathering Storm. The slog is moving on. So I'm looking forward to Towers of Midnight. I think it's actually is it the biggest book? I don't know. It's pretty fat. It's pretty chunky. Is it chunkier than The Gathering Storm? They're pretty similar. Yeah, they're pretty similar. So we'll see. We got 2 books left. 2 books left, ladies and gentlemen. Who is this old, very old man drawing a triangle with a knife? Who is this other very old man with a staff? That's Matt. He's got a hat and a spear. That's Matt. Is that like Tam and Tom? Who are these old people? Anyway, The Gathering Storm. Looking forward to the last 2 books. Great book. Till next time.